Good afternoon. Hello. I'm Diane Nance. I think it's time to call the meeting to order. Welcome, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Then, as we do the call to order, I always talk about the next commission hearing, but I want to first start just by introducing all of us. So, Lori, do you want to start? Go around?
Sure. Lori Budrow, I staff the Art Commission.
Robert Austin, technical support.
Mary Gray, I'm on the commission.
Diane Nance.
Matthew Moore.
Lisa.
Eliza Hope.
Ryan Whitman. Thank you. I am late and
You're fine. Thanks. Our next commission hearing is Wednesday, May 18th at 5:30 in this room, in this building. And at this time, I'd like to swear in staff and applicants. I think we can do it all together. Please tell us if that you swear to tell the truth and nothing but today. Yes?
You.
You're all done? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the last hearing of February 24th. Or discussion or both. Lisa is moving to approve it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Need discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. I was not there. All right. Returning applicants. So we will just jump into the new applicants, Lori.
Okay. We're switching the order of some applications. So Betsy Pandora, if you wouldn't mind. She's going to go first with the utility pole project that the SNA, Short North Alliance, is working on along 4th Avenue. 4th Street from Lincoln Avenue. Let's see. Along North 4th Street from Lincoln Avenue to 5th Avenue and from High Street to 4th Street. They haven't released a call, so this is a conceptual discussion at this point. They have some approaches that are pending before the Department of Utilities, but they wanted to brief the commission and see if you could conceptually approve the premise for the project, and they'll return with the exact poles that they'll be using for the project and the artist. There'll be the artist selection after they've gone through this conceptual phase and work with the Department of Utilities. So with that, Betsy, why don't you come on up and join us?
Thanks,
Lori. Scroll down a little bit.
Is this okay where I'm at, or do I need to like step directly
That should be
into
fine.
Okay, great.
Are you okay with what's on the screen right now?
I am.
Okay.
First, I want to thank Mark Stansberry for letting me hop him on the application. His daughter, she's very here. Okay, thanks so much. Well, we have two projects that we wanted to talk about today. The first is something that we're referring to as art poles. That's a working title. We recently have expanded our service boundaries and organization and created a second special improvement district on North 4th Street and 5th Avenue called the 5th Avenue and 4th Street Special Improvement District. Very creative title. A big charge of the leaders of that special improvement district has been to see more public art integrated into that service area. So we have a number of projects on private property that we will be releasing some calls for as early as Monday, actually. But we have a desire to do some projects in the public right-of-way and in public space that help to engage people and help to form some identity for the corridor as well. The corridor, particularly on North 4th Street, not only spans the Italian Village community and the Wyland Park community, but it is becoming a much more visited community. I think there's, Jennifer can maybe look at the stats and tell us better here from the Department of Development, but I want to say they're tripling the residential population from the last decennial census with the amount of residential development that has taken place in the corridor. And we have many kind of pedestrian generators and sort of destination businesses that are developing along the corridor from Seventh Sun to the Bud Dairy Food Hall and several others. In Wyland Park on Fifth Avenue and North 4th Street, there'll be a parking garage that will be a significant public parking facility for people. And then further down the corridor in the Jeffrey development, we'll have that as well. So we're going to go very quickly here from an area that maybe hasn't been as visited to one where you're going to see some fairly significant pedestrian activity. And there's a desire to do something unifying. We led a community planning process with the Neighborhood Design Center last year where we developed some ideas through that process and through some community feedback. And one thing that the Neighborhood Design Center and the community kind of observed was that we have this abundance of infrastructure in the built environment that maybe isn't as beautiful as we would love for it to be. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. There's likely no appetite or interest on the part of the city to underground our overhead utility lines in this corridor like we saw on High Street in the Short North. And so we are left with this infrastructure. And we think there's probably an opportunity to do something with it. So the Design Center did some benchmarking and looked at some applications in other communities and kind of recommended to us and to the community that this might really be something that could be valuable as an opportunity to integrate art into the built environment in an otherwise less than gorgeous set of infrastructure that's there. So we've had some conversations with the city's Department of Public Utilities, who has a number of these poles, and there's a real appetite and an interest in allowing us to place content on them. There's already some processes that exist. One process is to allow for banners. Another is to allow for joint use, and they have a joint use procedure. So we wanted to get the commission's feedback on a couple of different methods that candidly the Department of Utilities is going to probably be the driver on the method that they're going to feel comfortable with on their infrastructure. One method could be that we apply paint to the utility poles directly. One method may be that we apply some kind of removable material that's a cohesive piece. And one may be that we invite a merger of those things where artists create on a removable material in some way. So it may be that we're prescribed at what height we can install these pieces. It may be that there's certain poles that can and cannot accommodate by nature of the condition of the pole. Or by nature of safety concerns that the utilities department will have to make sure that they can always restore power or address a live wire or something like that. But generally just looking for feedback on our approach and really on the appropriateness or how receptive the commission would be to seeing art placed on these poles in a way that would be deemed sort of quasi-permanent, and that our desire would be that it lives at least a 5-year period, but that could be removed in the event that it needed to be removed.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll open it up for any questions.
I think you kind of hit it already. You said, in case that service needs to be restored or something like that. So I think the premise needs to be clear from the outset that somebody might have to climb up on the pole and damage, some of the artwork on there or something like that. I think so long that is understood from the outset, it should be fine. It sounds like a wonderful plan.
Thank you.
Do you see them, each pole being a different design, or do you see some unity, maybe something that connects the larger block together with a cohesive?
Yeah. So to talk a little bit about our process in this, just like we have for the Short North Special Improvement District area, we have convened an internal advisory committee to our organization of community stakeholders that can help us make sure that as we approach projects, we're doing that in the appropriate way. Those folks for this area includes representatives from the Italian Village Commission, the Italian Village Society, the board of the Fifth Avenue and Fourth Street Special Improvement District, and several artists that live in the area. Artists that not only are work in paint medium, but also sculptural medium. So having that, the thought that we've heard from that community group is that maybe color could be a unifier in some way. Because through the community planning process, the Neighborhood Design Center and a couple other consultants that we brought in recommended a color palette that we use in our communications for the area. And that color palette is reds and blues and greens and yellows and friendly, but kind of not so bright, but a little bit more muted colors. So I think that could be an approach that we take, but we would really want the guidance from all of you as folks that are gonna have the approval authority on placement of work in the right of way as to, would that feel like the right choice? Is that the right approach? Or is it something that maybe you don't think there should be something unifying, that they should be distinct pieces? Would love thoughts and feedback on that.
To, the mission or, the vision of because I think, a comparable example that I can think of are the utility boxes, in different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And for me, so far, I observe them more like, art, artists are quite free to provide their design or art, to be put on the utility boxes, right? So they don't necessarily have a wayfinding function, in those utility boxes. But then when it comes to utility poles, I don't know because I think utility poles, has a kind of like a dual function because it is primarily, it's a function. And, maybe just the elongation of it kind of give people an, illusion that it's some kind of a signage. So I think, if you can kind of like distinguish, whether it's a signage, whether it's an art, if you can early develop, or define that, either one, then I think, that would give more definition to the project.
Mm-hmm. I think, Liza, so I understood your feedback, is it that what you value about the utility boxes is that they really were kind of standalone, singular art pieces with each installation moment, but with this project, that there's maybe an opportunity for us to be more unifying, just so that I understand the feedback?
I don't think I have a, very strong position one way or the other.
Yeah.
But, I think for utility boxes, maybe I have seen, previous examples. So I understood it as a, as an art piece. I would never think that is any, signage or anything.
Yeah.
So maybe you can set the precedent, using utility poles as almost like a canvas, for artists to express their, the artistic vision.
Yeah.
So if you set it out that way, then I think you don't have to be, kind of constrained, the same color palette or anything. Then you can really have all the freedom, for artists to create something, in reaction to the utility pole. So I think, that is more like from the organization, standpoint, whether you want it to be art or whether you want it to be signage. I guess that's, it's like, I want to see more, clarity.
That is a great point. But as you were talking, I was thinking about how there's yarn bombers, they have utility poles. Maybe the color palette is the way to unify all the artists participating. And then they're free to do what they want to do, but at least they start with this like base 3 to 5 color set. Too.
Yes, if I can add, the utility boxes, there is consistency. People know that this is an art project. The thing with the utility poles is I'm wondering, especially when I look at the one on the far left, is would people feel, would Mary Gray feel like, oh, I can go paint a utility pole? Maybe that's not necessarily a bad, well, yeah, it would be if I did it. But I'm saying that I wonder if it might invite other people to, yes, yeah. And I also, speaking of utility poles, there are also tools for communication. Lost cats, lost dogs, posters of bands playing. And I wonder, what do we do with that? Is that going to be upsetting to the artists if they're used as they are so often used as?
Could also be an opportunity, right?
Yeah, I think the artists would want to do this with welcome
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Just things to think about. I'm not saying whether they're good or bad, it's just they're facts.
Yeah.
Right. And to your point, you know, if an artist puts their time into this, how do we recognize them as artists and maybe dissuade somebody from tagging there
Mhm.
too? So there's some consideration there. It's also thinking, these are like the utility boxes they disappear. I mean, they're, you know, once you notice them, you see them, but this will be the same thing for the poles in that. We largely don't think about them, but once they're going to be colorful or whatever we do with them, then they become part of the neighborhood and very, very visible. And
Know about the project.
yeah, and then also from a distance, because they are generally they're higher than, right? They're beacons, they become. So this really this will change the neighborhood significantly. So I think I think there's opportunities at eye level, but also up high. I don't know, it's a possibility, but you know,
Yeah.
I think there's some really interesting possibilities.
And if you reflect on the corridor, it's a very auto-oriented, I mean, it's a one-way, it's, the speed at which those cars move is probably faster than posted and the community would desire. So, you know, there's other efforts at Bay to address traffic calming and things like that, but from a who will view and how will one view this project, there's equal parts a growing pedestrian utilization, but there is not, there will not be a change to how auto-centric the corridor is for some time.
Do you know yet what budget will be for each artist?
We've committed $50,000 towards the project, and we have another grant out to the Ohio Arts Council to see if they would match that for us.
So that can take care of a number of polls.
That will take care of a number of polls for sure. And I think our intention would be to put a call out where multiple artists who are comfortable working with each other apply to participate together, because it's a lot for just one artist to achieve.
This summer?
Our hope would be to put the call out for this summer so that we could do an installation for the fall.
Any other questions?
No, I was just gonna say with that kind of budget, that might allow for fabrication like we see in the middle and the right. And they're beautiful.
Correct. I mean,
Great idea.
One idea that we have is, could we fabricate something where the artist can install and people can watch the artist create on it, but then the work itself is then installed at a later date after the artist has created it.
I think this is an antiquated thought. And I hope they don't do it anymore, but do they still use creosote to weatherproof the?
I don't know. The polls?
Yeah,
It's a great question. I know the answer to that question.
that's dangerous chemical, as I understand it. So definitely not know the answer to that.
Is there a reaction between paint and?
No, I think it's just, it's
Touching it, I think, yeah, it would
There
be
you go.
worth doing some.
It's a great
research.
piece of.
I hope it doesn't sink the ship. But
I would
it
hope
would be a
not.
consideration.
Yes.
So it's a structure that is wrapped around the pole and installed at a later date, like you said. As
Well,
far as recognizing the artists, that was also a good question. Do you remember the Sign Your Art project that GCAC did?
I do. What do I remember?
Well,
Oh,
they
Sign Your Art
made the
project.
word
Yes,
artist
yes.
on Google Maps, and I thought that
Yes.
was really cool. And through that map, they marked which artists were where.
Mhm.
I don't think any of them have survived at this point years ago, but that was a neat little way
Yeah.
to tag each artist.
We would, I mean, there would be recognition for the artists where the artworks are placed, and it's been our process to always provide a plaque or some form of recognition.
I'll take a motion to conceptually approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Who was first?
Yeah.
Yeah, he seconded it, but he actually first did.
Well, the good news is it looks like creosote is going by the wayside.
Did we get a quick Google? on it?
Well, I did a little quick
That's good.
Google. Yes, it's a robust preservative, but utilities generally prefer penta or CCA poles due to cost and environmental considerations. And that was back in 11. So yeah, there are only 2 states that seem to continue to use them, Louisiana and Texas.
So they remove those poles then with that old.
I don't know that they've been removed, but any new ones,
Yeah.
they're not
We'll
using.
have to look at the half-life,
Something to look for.
creosote potency is what.
Mhm.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I just remember my saying, don't touch that. So we did.
Okay, so the second application is Summer Spray 2022 or Summer Spray 3.
Summer Spray 3. So we've continued to, the community's continued to enjoy a project that we started in 2020 called Summer Spray, where we invite 10 artists to do live mural painting on a temporary wall that we construct on the cap in the short north. And typically we leave the work up through the spring of the next year. Last year, each artist that was a part of the project also had an exhibition in the short north, and we prioritized artists from historically marginalized groups. We want to do that again for this year, and I am in the process of deciding on a final space for those exhibitions. The proposal would be that the works would start in July and would continue through September. And we again would work with 10 artists from historically marginalized groups to do those projects.
I was glad to see that you learned from past
Oh,
and
yeah.
you've made adjustments. That makes sense. A lot of sense, which is good. Any comments?
No, it's a great program.
Yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't move forward.
That was easy.
Great.
So you'll be back, when do you think, with the artists?
So we're gonna release this call on Monday. So we should have, I think for your June meeting, we should have work. June, and then July is when we would begin the install.
And in June, you'll be back with their qualifications, right? Not their images, but their qualifications.
Their qualifications, correct, yeah.
Do we need a motion to conceptually approve that? The Summer Spray 3, Lisa and Eliza, all those in favor?
I
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Okay, now if we could go back to the beginning of the agenda. Mark, if you'd like to join us up at the front table. With us here this evening is Mark Stansberry, who is, I believe, the director of Barrack Recreation Center, is that correct?
Yes.
Where you've had a very long-standing boxing program, decades old. I think maybe you have an anniversary coming up, is that correct? Like, how many years have you been doing that?
Well, they've been boxing at Barrack Recreation Center since the mid-60s, since it was built 64. And I have a picture on the wall now of the young boxers of 1970. That's sort of a fun picture to watch. About 30 of them. So I just left today and there are probably about 25 in the boxing room right now. So
It's a, as I said, a robust program at Barrack Recreation Center, and they received some money. And if you could talk about where you received the funds from and how you selected Felicia, and we have some preliminary images Felicia put together. She was hesitant to do a full proposal at this point until she knew this was something that the commission was interested in moving forward, but she's provided some, hopefully you had a chance to look at them, really good ideas of what she would like to do moving forward. So Mark, if you wouldn't mind telling the commission about the project and again, your funding sources. We have information about Felicia, if she couldn't be with us today, she's out of the state. So if we need to look at her images, we can do that as well, her qualifications, as well as the proposal ideas.
thank you, Ms. Peters. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to present this idea. It's an idea that, I don't know if you've seen Parsons Avenue starting to really color up with some outside mural work and work. So we sort of felt left out in a way. We're on Woodrow and Parsons, just off of Parsons, between Woodrow and Champion. The community center's been there since 1964. The concept came to us from some teams that we work with. We have a teen leadership academy that we've been doing for 7 years. And we started exploring with them of how to create imagery of history of the community out that is their community. And they started saying, well, we could put some pictures up. Okay, what do you mean by pictures? And then they started defining a little bit more, and we decided that we might want to do a mural. The funding has come through. We've been very graciously supported through Adam Board for several years for a lot of the programming we do, youth-led programming, as well as our summer camp. They also have a special program, a special funding program for art and other community engagement aspects. And so we're coming at this from sort of introducing the history of what has happened at Barrack Recreation Center. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the one wall, and I didn't quite, in the picture I took, quite get the other wall. There's a bathhouse of the new pool. And so there's like a sort of like a cavern going through, nothing but brick, everything brick. And so what we're looking at, yeah, that's the wall that we're looking at for the mural. It is pretty dry looking, pretty dead looking, and we're thinking of coloring it up, putting it up. And if, I don't know if you've seen Felicia's work on other work she's done in Chicago and also in LA, but she's done some outside work on some community centers, and really she uses color that really jumps out, and I have come to appreciate her work. And that's on her website, if you had a chance to look at her website, underneath murals, projects that she's done in the past. Yeah, this is the initial sort of some of the sketch work that she's working out on. We're going to probably use these two boxers with a female boxer in the front. The female boxer will have a little different hair than we wanted to go more of an Afro-Caribbean look than the straight Hispanic look that she had gotten from somebody that she had worked with in the past. She's willing to work with that to make it more of an Afro-Caribbean look. Our funding, we have $14,000 in our budget to it, and it's in hand, ready to go. So and she's and we've signed a service contract with her, and she's willing to ready to go forward. She's been working on some of our inside murals already and has corrected some of the stuff that was done 15 years ago. You know, paint starts peeling and other things. So the work she's done inside has been very, very good. We've been appreciating that. Yeah, and that's some of her work in there. The idea behind this is to honor Rec and Parks as well as the community. So her way of doing things, or their way of doing things, is to highlight a Rec and Parks logo that will be watermarked inside of the overall project. So if you're walking around, you'll see the watermark of the Rec and Parks. So Rec and Parks, so we have to honor, you know, that whole thing. But the idea, the long haul, this is just the first part of what we're wanting to do. On this side, the side that we're going to be working with right now, looking for some support from you guys, is to have the boxing tradition. On the other side, on the bath side, we'll have some kind of swimming logo. And so if you think of the two walls, it's sort of like a cavern that you're walking back to the back side of our rec center, to sort of color that up a little bit and give sort of more of an introductory, a welcoming kind of feel. Big color coming out at you, you know, swimmers on one wall, boxers, and other sports that we might add to this mural once we get it up. But the first and foremost we wanted to do, since that wall is the back of our boxing gym. So that's why we've chosen boxing as the initial work. And it has been, as we've been saying, we've had a boxing show called the Living Legends Boxing Show for the last 4 or 5 years. We didn't do it the last 2 years, but we're going to do it again in February 23, where we've honored historical figures in the local boxing. Buster Douglas, all those. Those are names you know, but there's other more large numbers that we have in Columbus. Columbus has had a very strong boxing tradition in the past, and we have been doing that, bringing that to fore, and we'd like to continue to do that by bringing the big mural outside and adding some color to the area. So I think that answers your first 2-3 questions, but if I didn't, I might have forgotten one or two of them. And I sort of try to describe it in this. It sort of fits into what the Columbus Rec and Parks Arts Committee has as their goals that you probably haven't seen yet, but we are definitely trying to re-engage community and teams work. And the teenagers will have come to us with these ideas, and they also will help install. They'll help put up the scaffolding, they'll help do some other things that we'll be doing. We are, to avoid maintenance issues, we are going to hopefully have it high enough off the ground, 10 feet, that somebody wouldn't just naturally come by and just scratch it with something or do anything. And it will be clear coated once we get it up on the wall. So it'll have some protection, mainly due to the sun damage more. I don't anticipate, I've been at the center now for 13 years, and we've not had a tagging on the center for a long time. So as long as I keep that relationship with community, I think we'll be okay. It will be an effort. If you try to think of reaching up 10 foot to do something, I don't think too many youngsters will be doing that. So that's a little bit of our initial thinking. If you have any other ideas of how maybe to protect it, that'd be great. Other things, she said that Felicia has mentioned that she has no intention of leaving the area, so she would always come back and help to update or repair anything that needs to be repaired. And then that Felicia said that if she happened to leave, she would find another artist to help us to upgrade and to do whatever we need to do. We'd put her on retainer type, $20 an hour type of thing to come back and help out. So we thought through a little bit of what that might take to if something goes wrong. Anything else that I forgot to answer?
Thanks. I asked you if you have any comments or questions.
I'm assuming you're already using exterior latex paint.
Excuse me?
You're already using exterior latex paint.
Yeah, Felicia told me she's done outdoor painting before, and she's going to do an outdoor paint. I think it is it's sort of acrylic type, but it's
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's a clear coat that's anti-graffiti, but there's also a UV protected clear coat you could buy, and this is all Sherwin-Williams products.
Mhm.
I'm sure other brands make similar things, but Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah, Sherwin's the one. Yeah, we've gone through a few coating efforts with some of the indoor murals. We coated over one that she helped fix up that had been installed by AmeriCorps volunteer probably 15, 20 years ago. And it started having chips because, tables and everything gets bumped up against it. So she came and really fixed it up nice. And I have a picture on should have shared that with you. And I can, I'll send that to you.
Well, and the intent is to return when she has the art proposal completed. And we'll try and get Felicia here for that so she can answer the more specific questions like but she does have experience doing indoor now. So she should have that background.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we scheduled this meeting, it was, we were all set, ready to go, and then she realized she was out in California, LA with a art convention somewhere, doing something or some kind of convention up there.
It happens.
I think I certainly like the diversity in the figures. I guess my question for Felicia would be like, what's the concept behind this? It's boxing, of course, but I'd love to know some of the choices she made in the composition. And usually you think of boxers as just two different people. So I'm just curious.
She got those imageries from a flyer that we did from our Boxing Legends showcase, probably in 2017. That was probably our first flyer that we'd made. So I think she got those imageries from them. One was black, one was white. And we've been very intentional of saying that it has to be diverse, it has to be multicultural, it has to be multi-gender and that thing. So that, but yeah, she can answer more questions to that kind of how she came to those figures and everything. Yeah.
So is the intention, I think, just clarifying, the sketches that have been made, great, but the final work would probably be more graphic, like in her website. Is that what your thought is?
Yeah.
That they would be more graphic than that's,
Yeah, it's gonna be very similar to that. And the color, I thought I printed it off, but I didn't real quick. I was running around all day today. But the color one I do have on my phone, but I'm not gonna take time to look for that right now. But yeah, it's very similar to that kind of color jump out at you with the water. You can see the watermark in the back of the organization that she did
Yeah.
for, and I think that's Chicago, Southside Chicago. So it would be the Rec and Parks logo that would be that watermark in our shop. Yeah. And yes, she uses that kind of color in all her projects.
questions, other comments? Take a motion to conceptually approve the design and placement of this work of art. Those in favor?
I,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work with making Columbus more beautiful.
Mary, could you second?
Just second down the other.
I second it.
Okay.
Lisa.
Hearing. Right, now we're on to the Glen Echo Bird Mural, 2. Our commissioner, Liza Ho, was part of the first effort with her husband, and Alternative came to us back in 2012.
I remember that.
Years ago, the design for that particular mural, and since that time, ODOT made structural improvements to the bridge, the actual overpass itself. And doing so, damaged the mural significantly in the underpass area.
Sure
We're
did.
gonna get to those images in a minute. Scrolling down in the. Just be able to back it up. Go back a little bit here. Sorry. Go back to the folder. Application.
Oh, I see it.
Scrolling down in the application, correct?
Page 4 of
Yeah.
the PDF. Materials
The
compressed.
yeah, that, going down. Yeah, you can see in the top part, the damage that was done to the mural, and then it became tagged. Great deal. And Isabelle, why don't you come on up and Chris, if you want to join her? Sure.
Hello, hello, everyone.
I don't know how to pronounce your last.
It's okay. It's a hard last name. My name is Isabelle Francis Longan. I am a mural artist and a landscape architect in training. And I put together this proposal because I really enjoy Glen Echo Park, and that mural just seemed to me like it was really badly in need of being restored or redone. It seemed like it, to me, like the time has sort of come for that space to be renewed. And so I began to ask around the community to try to figure out what needed to happen to make this project happen. And I received a lot of positive support from the community and from pretty much everyone I spoke to. But the path forward on this project hasn't been entirely clear. So it's been about a year of me asking around and trying to connect the dots. I met Chris, who manages an event under the tunnel and who has also been trying to organize to get that tunnel repainted. And so we are bringing you this proposal to repaint the tunnel under Glen Echo Bridge. We put together a community survey that we sent out to various different neighborhood organizations in the area. And we did get a pretty decent response rate. I think over 77 people responded to that survey. And the overwhelming response was that people like the birds. The community seems like they are excited about having a bird mural under that bridge, but that mural does need to be redone and people seem to be in support of that. We also got a couple suggestions to add wildflowers, particularly trilliums, into that mural, as well as a few suggestions for species. So this is the art that I'm proposing. So this is the initial concept art that I'm proposing for that mural. It has species including house sparrows, blue jays, red-winged blackbirds, a downy woodpecker, cardinals, chickadees, tufted titmice, and barred owl, which came up several times. We've put together a budget for the project, and we have received funding in form of a Greater Columbus Arts Council grant, as well as some funding that Chris has raised through his organization to repaint the tunnel. We're still about $1,200 under budget, but that to me seems something that is an amount that is quite doable to raise via crowdfunding or another grant. So you will have to forgive me, I've never been to one of these commission meetings before. I have painted murals of this size before. And I'm here to answer questions.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for pulling it together to this point. I don't know if you know that Eliza was part of the original mural, and I'm really sorry it happens, but you know, you did a nice mural a while ago.
Yes, that's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. In that spirit, yeah, yeah,
And so the new generations coming up and
yes,
Yeah.
take it to the next level, true.
very much.
Yeah,
And keeping the community involved, I think that's really important too.
And I think that one of the things about the neighborhood, everyone has kind of affectionately started calling the tunnel the bird tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
It is a coined term now that is kind of a Columbus colloquialism. So if you're saying, oh, we're going to go down to the bird tunnel, someone is referring to the tunnel that's in the Glen Echo ravine that has birds in it. So I think that's something that is really strong in the community. One of the things that I do is organize an event that's once a year. It's a fundraiser. Fundraiser changes every year. We do 8 hours of DJs playing music down there with a permit granted through the Parks and Rec. And we've had so much community involvement and community engagement. And last year when we did our event, we decided that to help get the conversation going about getting the tunnel repainted, that our fundraiser was going to be for just that, to get the tunnel repainted. So we raised about $1,000 in a one day at on-site fundraising. So that's not a online campaigning. That's not any sort of match me sponsorships or anything like that. That's a, hey, we, the community, have came down here to give you money here at this event.
And you gave a letter of support, am I correct?
Yeah, we got a letter from Stephanie Baker at the Clintonville Community Resource Center.
We also have a letter of support from the University District Arts Council. You may have received a few from random community members.
What was the one I received today? The something party?
I think the maintenance plan.
Yeah, so
What
that's
do you
the,
call that? It was,
the Bird Tunnel Party event.
it was a little more exciting. I don't remember, yeah, it was quite the,
It's a very nice little.
yeah, it was very nice.
Just had that done too. Yeah, so we actually have a maintenance plan together for this mural. We are getting ready to launch a website that's going to be connecting different community members, coinciding with the Friends of the Glen Echo Ravine. And this website is going to be a hub for not just our event, but also cleanup opportunities. So we're thinking of doing a quarterly cleanup to not just get the tunnel possibly cleaned up for any sort of graffiti or anything like that, but for the rest of the park as well.
Yeah, it's nice that you're involving the community. Sounds like you went out of your way to find out more about what the community was interested in. That's excellent. The design itself is great. I like it.
Yeah.
Very uplifting.
Yeah, very
From
nice.
a personal standpoint, just wanted to hear when you say community, is there a specific set of streets? Or I live in the neighborhood too, but probably just a little bit out. And I'm really excited to hear. I think of myself as community, but I haven't heard of this here.
I would say that it was a pretty broad term. We were targeting neighborhood associations, but also park users and people who know that bird mural exists and enjoy the area.
So it's kind of a where three different neighborhoods meet. It's the actual Glen Echo neighborhood, the Sohud neighborhood, South Hudson, and Clintonville. So the tunnel kind of is mainly primarily shared by those neighborhoods.
I was reading, my son goes to Dominion Middle School, which is, just close to there, right? And the school is built on a former, you call it like ceramic factory site. They used to get the clay from the ravine and they built a lot of pipes for like sewage pipes, things like that, early in the 18-somethings. Anyway, the reason I was thinking of Dominion, I wonder too, like involving students or, if when you were talking about community specifically, middle schoolers and so on and so forth to, I don't know, have a hand somehow in the project, that could be really exciting. It could also potentially reduce future tagging and, things like that.
We are planning on putting together a volunteer day to prime and prep the wall.
When you prep the wall, are you planning to paint the grid above, so there is like a vaulted kind of ceiling? I know, my husband and I have been talking about it. How do we actually have a way to kind of make the top part of the tunnel a little, more to beautify it? Because right now it just shows the grid, in there.
Well, we've been so when I put this design together to go about 12 feet up. So that at that point, that covers sort of a bit of the grid. Right now, I don't think we have the budget to really get up there and paint the grid. That's something I would be open to looking at if if like we were to have more help
Yeah,
making
for
that
sure.
happen.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've personally, like, once you start getting above like 12, 15 feet, you start to need more equipment and,
Yeah.
and that wall's, it's curved, so that adds
Sprayer
another
to it.
technical
Yeah,
challenge.
it's very good.
Sprayer to it.
Yeah,
Are you planning to have a scaffolding down there when you?
for my current design, I was planning on renting one of those smaller rolling scaffolds. But that wouldn't get me
Is it a electric
that high. I honestly, I think painting the entire arch is a lift job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
So the scaffolding, the movable one that you mentioned, is it electric
no,
or
it's
just
just small
manual?
enough that you
Oh,
can
okay.
roll it along. They're nice. They're great to.
Really reasonable to rent too.
It's just that, it's not very level, the sidewalk and all that is a little, bumpy down there.
There's ways in it, and then you just put like a little.
Plus some
thing under
volunteers
it.
a spot.
Exactly.
I know I'll be down there helping,
Yeah.
so.
You shouldn't be up there alone anyway. Says mom.
It's very lovely to see the continuation of the bird theme. Started that night. It's truly a community request, I would say. We were requested to paint, to feature all the birds, that fly through there, including resident birds and migratory birds. So we actually featured 35 different types of birds down there. So, it's actually got the input from the Glen Echo Birds Club. I don't know if they're still active down there. So the list of birds, being featured on there, the list, from them. So, so I can see that, some of them, are being featured here. And one of the kind of funny side story is that, one of the proposal is to paint, house sparrow. And house sparrow was, considered as a pest bird. No one wants to see them. Not only that one, and also European starling. They're kind of like seen as, kind of like a nuisance more than, a bird that, to be appreciated. So some neighbors, have some complaint, oh, well, they're birds, why do you want to, exclude them? So eventually, house sparrow and the European starling were featured, on the film. But, I'm just, trying to, share some funny story, behind it, all the birds being featured down there. Happy to see the is it North Carolina chickadee, in there, the black cap, That's one, because, back then we also had a fundraising, campaign, have, kind of like a sponsor for each specific bird. And my family sponsored the North Carolina black cap, chickadee there. So I saw that, like behind in the background. So I'm happy that it survives.
That could be a
But-
nice fundraising,
Yeah.
get you over the line, yeah.
We are looking at our next beneficiary for this coming year, so.
Sponsor a bird.
We're probably looking at some sort of conservationship, since conservationship seems to get so little money. So that's what we're likely looking into.
So two more, resources. So back then when ODOT, contacted us, when they need to repair the bridge, they actually donated 30 gallons of exterior paint, to us. So I still have them, in the warehouse. So, we, back then, we didn't have any plan to use it, but then they're obligated to donate it to us. So, I can talk to you about, how to get those paints and.
I think it's still good.
Yes,
Okay.
I think so. They were donated to us 2000, maybe 17 something, but it had never been opened, so no one has used them.
Okay.
And you'll know it when you open them if it isn't good.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah, there's no standard fluctuation. Yeah, you can have a good one.
It's just.
It's nice.
So the artist could contact you, Eliza, email you to set up a time to look at the paint?
Set up a time.
Could Isabelle set up a
Yeah,
time to?
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Mhm.
We've also got a donation from PGG Paint.
Oh, yeah,
PPG?
yes, but-
They,
PPG.
They donated 3 cans of really high-end primer.
They donated just in, I calculated the square footage, it's just enough to burn that area.
Bob was
And
very
it's
nice.
it's the highest quality.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff.
Other comments?
I need a bird.
This is fantastic. We are asked to approve the mural design as submitted to be painted.
Could we hold just one second?
Yes.
Actually, it needs to change to conceptual approval.
Okay,
What we found out, Isabel's correct, that it's been kind of a winding road to get here. Public service, I guess in some early contacts, didn't think that they had any authority there, although they had signed off on the first mural. And when I circulated the agenda and followed up with some staff there, they decided that they needed to look at it.
Okay.
They do some smaller maintenance for ODOT, but then ODOT does the major maintenance. So I'll help Isabelle work that out with public service, and then also ODOT will probably want to take a look at the design. No issues are anticipated because there are no sight lines to cars underneath there. So we'll probably be back next month looking for final approval. So tonight it's conceptual.
all right. Then I'll entertain a motion for conceptual approval.
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Projects, big work.
So the next application is the Downtown Connector Public Art Plan, which you saw several months ago as a preliminary project discussion. Kelly Messer is here with Recreation and Parks, so Kelly, if you could make your way up to the front table. Lisa was consulted by the person who put together the plan, so Lisa will need to recuse yourself from discussion and voting on this.
Okay.
And we've already talked, so she's aware of that. When Recreation and Parks came the first time, one of the concerns was that the person who put together the plan with Epic Smalls, she actually contacted artists directly and got ideas of what could be done, not the exact proposals that they would be doing, but ideas of murals or other objects that could be art along the connector trail. And proposed budgets for what it would cost to actually do those things. And I hope you had a chance to look at the plan, which was in your materials. Recreation and Parks right now, they've released the bid for the project. It's a fairly extensive restoration project of that connector trail east from Nelson to Cleveland, I believe. So kind of follows Leonard Avenue, is that correct? And then it goes and follows 670, which gets closer to downtown. And feel free to correct me if I misstate something, but what they're finding is that their bids are coming back very high because when the estimates were put together, that was either during or pre-recession, or excuse me, not recession, sorry, pandemic. And now there are material shortages, and as most of you know, the cost for materials for just about everything has really gone. So what is being proposed is that the plan is approved and that they can use it as a menu of sorts for what they might be able to do along the connector trail, engaging with artists that are in the plan if they're able to do that, if not finding other artists. The reason why I felt comfortable having that proposal is because we're trying to get greater diversity in the art that the city has, and The plan pretty much contains ideas and input from female artists and also from Black artists that are affiliated with the neighborhoods around the Near East Side, the area where the trail's going in. Also, Recreation and Parks has an interest once they have their bid and they're ready to go with the project. If there's some portion of that that needs to be considered at the time that they're doing the other work, they would like to be able to just move forward with that as opposed to going out and bidding that. And Kelly, if you'd like to share something that I might have missed?
Sure, yeah, and good to see everyone again. I will just state that we did this backwards than what is like to be done. So in the future, we hope to set aside a set amount of money and have an artist call. You know, I'm learning a lot on this method. So we're kind of working backwards, and Lori and you all have been very helpful through that process. And like she mentioned, we don't know exactly how much money that we have to dedicate towards this. The city right now is actually on hold of bidding out any projects over $100,000 until we figure out some other elements that's in the hands of city government. So once we bid that out and we understand how much money we have left over, we hope to dedicate all that to art work. And this report has different applications and artists and mediums proposed. We do not know exactly where we would select them, but generally we would pick an artist and pick their idea and hopefully do as many as possible. Along this alignment, unfortunately, we do cross jurisdictions with Ohio Department of Transportation. So there'll be a little coordination there of, you know, hey, can we put some art panels on your right-of-way fence? You know, there may be some maintenance agreement that we have to have with them. So there are still some details to work out. I envision that I will probably have to come to you all again once we know exactly what we're doing. But as Lori mentioned before, allowing us to move forward with this proposal and the work that Jess Sims put together with Epic Small allows us to move a little quicker. You know, we're all busy. We all have a lot of projects. I really want to make sure that art's installed on this trail before the end of the year. That being said, I just want to get input from you all and see that, you know, if that is supported, if we can move forward with this, you know, this report, if there's any installations that caused people to think a bit, have any hesitations, I'd love to know that, as well as get an understanding of moving forward, next steps. Maybe that's too soon, but sounds like you all were asking other artists or applicants here, you know, making sure the materials being sourced made sense for its condition, making sure that all those other items that one wouldn't normally think of, but since you all are experts in this area, think of. So I'll stop babbling there and let you all give me some feedback.
But has everyone had the chance to look through everything? You want to take any time to go through any of it again?
I noticed you have Aprilson on, and she's already done some years. She's seasoned. So she should be know all the logistics. How about the rest of the artists?
A lot of them.
Yeah.
They're all seasoned.
Okay.
May I ask,
Lisa, you can't discuss this, I'm sorry.
and we can't ask questions of the artist?
I guess if you go to the table, and you're talking specifically as an artist who might be involved with this and who was consulted during the plan.
I can ask the artist after the meeting.
Yes.
It was a dimension thing.
Okay. Just want to be exceptionally careful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right, okay. Just to be clear, so all of these artists have approved or have agreed to be a part of the project, and the things that we are seeing are in fact works that they would like to finish.
When I followed up with Jess to get more information on how she procured these artists and their artwork, she shared with me that she was very transparent, that you may or may not get selected, and that none of the artists that proposed in this were paid, but they understand that if we were to select them and move forward, they would be paid. So that's what was shared with me, and I hopefully trust that's what occurred. And I do hear that she's a strong member in this art community, so.
I think it's also, once the budgets are known, the actual proposals will change, like April Tsunami's works, I think, are images of work that she's done before, not necessarily what she would be doing as part of this project. So the detail of it, the actual proposal, I can expect that to change somewhat, but the birdhouse piece that's up there right now, you'd probably be looking at birdhouses, but what that would actually be in form would change once they get into the nuts and bolts of it, if they've actually been selected.
Can you explain Dana Lynn Harper's? I really am not quite sure what I'm looking at on this
Yeah.
page.
Which one is it?
That's page 14.
What letter?
I.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
So part of our alignment for the Downtown Connector Trail, it currently ends, the trail segment ends at, I want to say Cleveland Avenue, and Jack Gibbs.
Oh,
So
Okay.
that passes right along the Fort Hayes
Right.
campus. And so I think the intent behind here, not reading it verbatim, but to reflect some of the architectural elements that were reflected in Fort Hayes. And we also don't have any amenities along the trail. We don't have any benches. That's something that we could incorporate a, functional art, an area of respite. And I will say too, I feel as though you would be more likely to install artwork that's a pavement marking or a mural rather than a structure. Being recreation and parks and installing a structure in the right of way that is maintained by Department of Public Service, they may have some hesitations towards that as far as us maintaining it versus them, and just dealing with intentionally not creating locations for folks who have housing needs to, take up the space. It gets to be a little political in terms of where we place benches sometimes and not.
So this is supposed to be a bench.
That's how I interpreted it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like an 82-foot bench.
Okay.
It's a long bench.
It's really a long bench.
Her budgets are quite high as well.
Yeah, those are really good.
Eat up quite a bit of the overall. Okay.
The bench is 4 by 3.
Yeah, bench is one piece out of the whole installation. There's
But the intention of the artist is to have all of the pieces, correct? In the installation.
I'm not sure.
One bench is 3,000.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, I don't know. There were parts of this that just didn't come together for me, so sorry, it's my problem.
No, I can't fully answer your question, so I apologize.
Well, certainly like a wayfinding application makes sense. And I do like the idea of certainly of marking the trail and accenting it rather with public art, but I think there's some good ideas here.
Yeah.
Definitely. Internally, we're really excited about birdhouses, creating an environment for birds, kind of similar with the theme here with other mural piece, but that corridor feels very hostile to a pedestrian user, bike user, in hopes of not only repaving it, widening the trail, adding some landscaping elements, but adding art to just indicate to pedestrians, you're meant to be here, you're born here, this is your space. Right now, the alignment is just, it's there, it's existing, but it's it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like I'm supposed to be here.
Mhm.
There's also a lot of trash along that alignment as well. And I'm a big believer in if you treat it the way it needs to be treated, hopefully people will take more ownership of that and people will notice it more. People want to come to the Downtown Connector Trail and ride it to see the art. They'll do more 311s of, hey, there's trash pickup. We need to address this, or set up a trail cleanup day. So I think the more attention you can bring to a piece, placemaking, it just kind of snowball effects on how it's taken care of. Similar to the Untainted Trail or Allen Creek or big well-known ones.
So we will have a chance to look at individual piece of artwork, or, so if we are going to.
I'm assuming once we know our exact budget and we contact Jess again, let her know, hey, it's been a couple years, good to see you again. This is our budget, this is what we're thinking. We'll probably reconnect with some of the artists and piece through that. And then I'm assuming we could come present here again with our final pieces. And considering there's a handful of artists here, would the expectation be that all artists come and present, or could a representative or someone else?
The artists to come with their proposals.
Okay.
Because they can describe them, I think, with more nuance. It's hard to do if you didn't do the proposal. Also, I'm available to help when you're pulling together.
Okay, great.
You've got the menu, budget, what it is you want to do in the placement, and kind of honing that down and making it more specific. I just think these are kind of guideposts at this point.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
so what are we voting on?
So you're voting to approve the downtown connector public art plan as a menu of artist options that Recreation and Parks can select from to integrate public art into the downtown connector restoration project. So then once they actually have the artists and come with that, then we'll be, depending on how many times we need to be coming for conceptual approval and final approval, or asking for detail, those plans are at that point.
Entertain a motion?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed, abstentions? What? All right, thanks. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ally.
See you all soon, hopefully.
Good
luck.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the preliminary project discussion. Hi, Mary, can you join us? Mary Rogers is here to talk about restoration that they're planning to do to the history mural on
Thanks,
North
Eliza.
Broadway. Nope. Put that away.
to see the, I drive past this
Yeah.
every day.
Down. Broadway mural restoration. Down on that one.
Or so it's.
There were, I think, it might be that flat black report
There you go.
there.
So the images that we have are of the damage that needs to be restored along the mural. Flat Black, who Mary mentioned, they have contracted with to do the restoration work, and they have a letter, sort of watery letter. It's a letter signed by Bertie Eckers, who did the first mural, agreeing to having the work done by Flat Black and signing off with needing to be involved any further with the history on North Broadway. So, Mary, why don't you pick it up from there?
So in 2012, the city was celebrating its 200th anniversary, and we, the Clintonville Historical Society, embraced that history theme and created this series of murals on an underpass that's on North Broadway, just before you get to 71. So you're actually driving through this underpass underneath a series of railroad tracks that go above you. It's just been a great addition to the community. But earlier last fall, the city contacted me and said that they had some water infiltration that had damaged the concrete that was going to need to be repaired. And at that time, we could only commit to being open to the idea of restoration because we had no idea, and neither did they, how much damage would be caused by the repair. So at that point, we did reach out to Lori and Diane, and we did also reach out to the artists that worked on the original mural, to try to just get an idea of whether or not restoration would be an option versus replacement. They did the repair. They certainly have damaged the mural, but not as extensively as I thought they might have. So it's about 550 square feet of, you can kind of see patched concrete areas. So what we've done is we've gone to Flat Black, which is a Clintonville neighbor, and asked them for their professional advice concerning the restoration of those images. And over the last few months, we've negotiated a repair. It's about $30,000 to actually paint match the existing mural. So they'll be using images that we have in our archive to basically recreate the image that was there. Now, we're never going to be perfectly aligned with whatever the original was, but I feel that Flat Black is capable of doing an excellent job of the restoration work. So we've gone ahead and signed this contract. We've raised the funds necessary to make that part of the repair. When we did that mural in 2012, we stopped short of the railroad tracks and then came back about a year later and began fundraising to actually continue the mural underneath the railroad tracks and onward to the other side. That's where things got a little sticky contractually. Our artist was not able to successfully complete that work. So those areas just never really received the same level of graphic detail that was done to the west of the railroad track. During our discussions with Flat Black, they did make a proposal on continuing the mural to, extend all the way to the other side. The cost estimate was somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000, $50,000. So the society hasn't said no to that, but we have not embraced that because we were successful in raising $30,000. I don't know that we'd be successful in raising $90,000. So we're just going to restore to the point that the railroad tracks kind of start, and then we have noticed some graffiti and there is some inconsistency in the mural that's extending. So Flat Black has suggested that we paint those walls a dark gray to just kind of, eliminate the potential of graffiti, hopefully, because dark gray is not as appealing as the current cream color that seems to be attracting quite a bit of graffiti. So included in this restoration quotation is the paint out of those walls to the dark gray. Flat Black has also come up with a concept of putting welcome graphics on those portions of the walls. Now, they've given us some idea of how much that would cost. So if we just did a scaled back kind of welcome graphic, which they felt that they would be inspired by the different signage that's around the communities of both Clintonville and Linden, and to try to take the spirit of those kind of 1940s to 1960s signs and create some kind of welcome graphic for both Clintonville and Linden, and basically apply that graphic to those parts of the walls. I wanted to run that past the Clintonville Area Commission before, we would even start the process of talking to the public. I did attend the last month's meeting. Diane was there. I'm thinking things went pretty well. They seem to be very excited about the opportunity of potentially being part of, the graphic installation. So I left that meeting feeling that, over the coming months, we can then begin, a more formal process of vetting that concept and fundraising towards that concept. So I came tonight to kind of make sure that you were up to date as to what we're doing from the restoration standpoint, but also to just kind of give you a heads up. I'll probably be back in a couple months, maybe 4 months, to, revisit that extension area of this mural. So, and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I really appreciate you coming in. It gives us a reminder, kind of going back in history about what's been happening there, and to remind us that, these things are going to have to be fixed, and what happens when that. So thanks for coming in.
When we first did this mural, we estimated the useful life at around 15 years. I actually think it's done pretty well. I mean, I've been impressed with it, just the way it's kind of lived its life so far. So I think this restoration effort, may get it another, I think it'll definitely get another 5 years. I don't know if it'll get another 10, but it's lasting. It's doing a good job.
Any comments or
I just want to say
suggestions?
that this is my neighborhood, Mary, so I drive past it several times a week, and I'm delighted to know that something is finally happening with it. And I would love to see welcome to Clintonville.
Yeah.
But I know it all costs money.
Yeah, but if there's enough people interested in spearheading that, I mean, we've had a lot of support to this mural over the years, but it is a big wall, huge, big. Lots of people are, and it's not easy to work, especially under that railroad situation. Not a lot of artists going, yeah, let's get up on that lift underneath the railroad.
Yeah, sure.
Fight off the pigeons and paint, yeah. It took about 8 months to do the, the whole, the part that we're talking about. And I think that he, it's not like he was out there 8 months every day, he kind of worked in phases of inspiration. So he might have been, very attached to one particular section, and then taken a rest and then come back with with another thought on how to blend that section with another section. So, it is kind of challenging to make 200 years worth of images actually weave together without them just looking like they're like laying on top of each other. And I think he did a really good job with that.
Yeah, he surely did.
And he also tried to tie in, if people visited, he would get their stories and try to work something in specifically for the visitors that came. So I did bring 5 copies of the commemorative booklet that talks about the images in case anybody needs one. These were something that we printed back when the mural was originally done. So they talk about the images and talk about the artist and tell you a little bit more. And this is the same kind of, we provide this booklet to the local libraries and the schools in both the Clintonville and Linden communities to just try to make sure that 3rd graders have that for their curriculum.
I always think about that. Yeah, that's my comment earlier. It's like more. Excited or get involved.
Mary, there were more of those at Whetstone Library?
I think they have 3 copies that are in there. They don't circulate them. They just have them as research in that kind of local history area.
My neighbors on Torrance Road would love to see this. They would just
They can just call me, Mary.
Wonderful. We all drive past it, but we don't necessarily know what everything.
Yeah, actually, there's a website.
Okay.
So you can send them to columbusmurals.com and a lot of these images are on that website. And there's more in these books, but that website is really, very exciting to people that I meet and they want to learn more, so. Or you can talk to any third grader. Any third grader in Glenville or Linden should be able to answer questions regarding who is James Bull.
That's my next door neighbors.
So I'll leave those here, Lori, and, if you have extras, feel free to give them to whoever. Any other questions for me?
Was James Bull an early
James Bull was a mayor of Columbus, the founder of the Columbus Police Department.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So did he sign the state?
See it?
No idea. If that was his work, then I am unaware of that. He was mayor, I think for 2 stints. So he had 2 3-year stints and there was a little break in between. So his family came here in the 1860s.
Did you live in Glenville?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I have a little booklet about the history of Glenville.
Yeah. So he's one of Thomas Bull's grandchildren. So. Interesting guy.
Thank you.
And we have Mr. Mays there with the big mustache. So if you ever heard of Mays Road, that's Mr. Mays.
Oh, that's Mr. Hayes. Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for all the hard work you do. I love what I've seen in the last, 15 years of art. Very excited about this connector art. I wanted to learn more about this Short North project, but I guess I'll just be surprised when I see things on the utility poles. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Great. I have a couple things.
Okay.
I have a new commissioner starting next month, Jamal Brown.
That is
He was with the Lincoln Theater. Lisa recommended him and some other people for consideration, and very excited about joining the commission. He's a choreographer, he's a writer, so we have a great art area of interest joining the commission. So yeah, he'll be filling the unfilled portion of Chip Santer's seat, so that's a good 2 years. And really excited to have him start and gave a big sigh of relief that we have another commissioner will help.
Jamal.
Can we share that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Great.
it was passed to council, so
Excellent.
it's all good. I have
Very
not
happy
sent it
about
to him yet. I'll get an email to him before I leave tonight.
Okay, good.
If he's watching.
Right.
Hey, I ran out of time. I should get it out before I came down here, but he'll be happy, I think. The Christopher Columbus Statute Committee, we have the RFP, it was re-released, and if you go to the city's vendor services page, get there. If you could go to vendor services, look for open bids and put in development in the search, easiest way to find it. And put development with an asterisk at the end of it and take you to the 4 proposals, which closes May 11th. So that's moving forward. The new public artwork for the downtown city campus. Right now, all of the RFPs and bids for the city are going through review for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. That is, well, it's a new office within the city, but they're taking a more active role with the city's bidding procedures and the language of RFPs and things that are released. So, hopefully we will be able to release that sometime this summer. Late spring, summer. And,
When do we get to see it?
well, I asked Jennifer about that. I know that she's talked to you each individually and solicited thoughts on some of her ideas about it. I really wanted it to come to all of you together because I think that's kind of when the magic happens, because you all have various perspectives. And, when it's looked at all together, those start to come together and mesh them. So the intent is to bring it to the commission. We had hoped that we would be able to bring it for tonight, but that didn't happen. So I don't know, Diane, it might be next meeting in May, it might be the one after that. We
But I
don't know
guess
how-
the question is, will we see it before it's released?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that it will go to all of you to be reviewed at a full commission hearing. So as far as I know, that's what's gonna be happening, and we have to wait for whatever language ODI adds
Sure.
to the mix. I think that's
Was,
all that I have.
was Jennifer here?
She had to leave.
She was the woman sitting.
Right. Was she gonna present to us or discuss something with us or?
No, she's been taking a really active role, as you know, with public art, so she's
Yeah.
been sitting in on the meetings, on the hearings.
Right.
And I think she was gonna update you on the downtown public art, plan for the new artwork, so, she had to leave early, so that's for her. So, yeah, she has another appointment she needs to follow.
Okay.
Wait till the next meeting. Oh, will she be back?
No.
Possibly, or I'll be reporting it.
Okay, great, Lori.
Yes.
Any other questions for me about these things? Liza's so quiet, I didn't even.
Yeah, Eliza, not.
I was just realizing there's an empty seat there.
She had mentioned she had some meeting.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
did. I just,
She looks actually a little later than.
anything that you guys have to report or share with the, with the order?
I'm sorry, I was late. It might be actually harder now for me to get here on time.
Is that 5:30?
Sure. No, it's good. I'll try to be here.
I'm done today.
Yeah, we
We surely did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your second meeting this year.
And it's April.
Depends on how much activity's out there.
Right, right. And it's
Yeah,
very
for the
helpful to
beginning
have a
of the
new
year, this
member
is good activity.
Yeah.
coming on board, thank
Yeah,
God.
forums that will be.
So if I'm remembering correctly, the RFP goes out on the for the statute committee for the consultants. And those will be reviewed sometime in May. So that committee is not gonna even get back together. June?
So the Christopher Columbus Statute Committee, that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's been posted. That RFP has been posted. There were some revisions to it. Nothing that changed it so substantially that we felt we needed to come back. We found that we needed to be more specific.
Yeah.
Some of what we wanted.
I'm trying to figure out a timeline. So that committee won't be meeting and talking to,
Probably June or July
Okay.
by the time we're in contract, because May 11th is when it closes. Then the interview folks will need to review the proposals. Then we'll need another week and a half, 2 weeks to schedule the interviews with the consultants.
so the dispensation of the Christopher Columbus statue is going to be concurrent with the discussions and preliminaries for new art on the campus.
They're two separate processes.
They're gonna run concurrently.
They will at some point, yeah, because we'll have a consultant already under contract for working with us on the potential of returning the Christopher Columbus statue to a public location. And then at some point, we will be releasing the RFP for the downtown public art, downtown campus public art master plan.
Right, so we won't have the input from that, or that group about the former statue, the one that hasn't been determined. That information won't be available for the artists who may have will we know, will we have made a determination or sent out a proposal for art on campus before we finish up with the statute.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just trying to get it in my head.
Where, I mean, where there's information that needs to be shared between those two activities, we'll do that, but they are, one of the points of confusion at times for the Christopher Columbus Statute Committee was the new public artwork or down for City Hall at that point, but then sort of broadened it out to down on campus, which is essentially City Hall to this building. So broad to long, front to Marconi is the area that we're looking at potentially for the new artwork. So work that happened in the Christopher Columbus Statute Committee will be available to the consultants who are working on the downtown campus public art plan, but there'll be two separate activities, and there'll be a separate selection committee that will be formed to, select the artists and how that happens, whether it's a jury call, open call. There may be someone who serves on the Christopher Columbus Statute Committee who's also on the downtown campus master plan. Certainly, we have 3 members of the commission that are on the downtown, the Christopher Columbus Statute Committee. So, we'll have at least 1 or 2 members of the commission that are on the other downtown campus plan process. But they do have somewhat different objectives because we're not looking to place the Christopher Columbus statue in the downtown campus area.
Okay.
If it is to be returned to a community location.
Okay, any other comments or things to bring up today? Are we up? Motion for an adjournment? All right, thanks. All those in favor?
I.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both, please. Thanks, boys.